Good morning, Mobile, and all of our friends across the Gulf Coast. Thanks for tuning in for another special edition, our Happy New Year edition of the Echo Stop Live podcast. Last week, you saw some very special moments as we had some faith and leadership discussions live on our podcast. Today, we want you to tune in and enjoy another episode of Faith Working in Our Community. Well, welcome back to another episode of Operation Echo Stop Live podcast. We're actually bringing you part two of a unique series this holiday season where we're talking about faith-based leadership. If you watched last week, you saw the episode where we had several of the pastors and Curtis. We've kidnapped two of them.
We did. We held them over.
right here in their very own church. But I'm pretty sure that based on this amazing conversation, I'm prayerful we'll have that we didn't have to press them too hard. What do you think?
No, I think they are more than happy to have us here, and we appreciate them allowing us to be here.
Yeah, most definitely.
Absolutely. Well, pastors, welcome back. Thank you so much. As we always say when we open the show, this is not just for Mobile, but it's for all the Gulf Coast and our listening audience. We believe all the communities can influence each other. And but that said, I really want to just take some time in this episode. Curtis and I want to learn more about something that's very specific to Mobile and to what you guys are doing in this campus here in Midtown. And man, I was talking to my new good friends here about some amazing things, and I'm just blown away. So Midway, I mean, that's what we want to talk about for the next little while. I mean, what do you guys think when I say that? Like, what inspired that? What is that program? And just kind of tell us a little bit about it and what you see happening with it.
Sure. So I can talk a little bit about what inspired it, and then I'd love for Justin to kind of fill in kind of his heart and what the next iteration of it looks like. And so when I came here 6 years ago, we were in the middle of this community, which is the most diverse 3 square miles in the state. And it's a very young community. In fact, the new census data tells us that our 5-mile radius is under the age of 39. Wow. And it actually gets younger to that when you get in closer proximity to this campus. Mm-hmm. And so we have a lot of next generation members in this community, a lot of young families, and a lot of young individuals that are making decisions about the trajectory of their future. And so we began to ask the question, what does not only, a come and see approach to what we do on Sunday morning look like, which we'll always do. Like, we're always going to be, as a church, being proclamation-centered and proclaiming the gospel, doing what we do as a church, but also how do we get in the community and influence change and form relationships so that not only you come and see, but us in the community actually being organically involved in the community on days other than like a Sunday or a Wednesday, which are those traditional church days. Right. And so if we're really going to see sustained change in the next generation, it can't just be come and see what we do on Wednesdays and Sundays, although we're going to always do those things and seek to do them on purpose. Mm-hmm. How do we get in the community and really influence change to how we shape how individuals see their relationship with God and their relationship with their community in more than just 2 days a week?
Wow.
So that's kind of where we started.
I got to say that I'm privileged to have a relationship with Pastor Gaston over the last several years that allows me to know some of the things that are happening here. In fact, sitting as one of his board of directors for Midway, and the work that this church is doing, Three Circle is doing in Midtown is awesome, long before the creation of For Midway. So I'm just eager to hear more, as I already know, but I want others to hear all the great things that are happening here, because they're being very intentional in trying to bring the church to the people.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And, when I think of Midway, what do I think of? I think of hope-driven change. I also think of meeting people where they are, especially young people, and, just giving them another opportunity or another resource of what they need. And so when I look at Midway, I think of a powerhouse of resources. Like, how can I get you to where you need to be? How can I show you that there is hope, there is a way other than the way that if you've been taught? How can I get you out of your environment and show you that there's a better way? How can I expose you to something that you may have never had exposure to that can, end up changing your life? How can I introduce you to somebody, who's doing great in the community, and you say, well, this is something easy I could do. I could, go into this profession. I may not go to college. I may not, follow to the traditional path, but, I can find someone who is doing great things in the community, and I feel like I can, resonate with that. So that's what I think of Midway. That's what I think of, and just being a change agent, being here to help change the community.
Well, I mean, I'm just watching you talk, and I'm saying, man, this man is just filled with passion for
That's
what
right.
he's doing.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously we have a story. Everybody has a story. I mean, what's driven you to this point? Hope-driven change. You have that hope as well, and that's the driving factor that you're trying to bring to the community. So, what drives you to be as passionate about this as you are?
Yeah, so my background and where I come from just drives me to be who I am today. Just dealing with not knowing my biological father to the age of 23, things like that just lets me know that, people in my life that's gone down the wrong path because of what our, statistics say. And some of my peers have lived up to those statistics. They may be in prison, they may be dead, but my passion is I can look and say there was always something different. I had a grandmother who prayed for me. I had a mother who exposed me to a lot of different diverse situations and groups. And also had, a group of men around me that I looked up to. A lot of times when we don't have the father figure we think we need, a lot of times we just, do stuff that doesn't make sense. And we just kind of gravitate to a life of violence, a life of crime. But what I did was I said, okay, here's what I don't have, but here's what I do have. I have people in the community that's doing the X, Y, and Z. And so I got involved in programs like the Mobile Capital League with Dr. Carl Cunningham and other things throughout high school to where I knew that I wanted to be different, and I knew I wanted to change my I don't want my family to go through the things that I went through growing up. And so I have 3 little boys now, and so I can raise them up to be a better version of who I am, and they don't have to start where I started from.
That's right.
And so that's what pushes me, because I have 3 little versions of myself coming behind me and say, okay, Daddy, show us the way.
That's
and
right.
so that's what drives me every day I get up.
Yeah, I mean, and you're talking about a program that's been visionary from the church. And when you say, that the path, essentially, you're laying this path that your children can follow, I mean, essentially, there's already a path that we've been shown. And so, you're taking something. So, how do you see this program allowing people to see that there is a path? Because, and the reason I asked about your story is, if we're not relatable, if people don't understand that we have a journey, each of us, then they it's easy, because I've been that guy, right? So you sit in the chair and you're like, yeah, but you won't understand my journey, right? And the fact that we all have unique journeys, yet we all have this commonality of following this path. Pastor, I'll ask you, how do you see this path of what we know spiritually we're supposed to do? How do we make that relatable through Midway?
Yeah, so I think I think every person, if it's a young person considering what's next, that they need about 3 or 4 things essentially for there to really be an opportunity for them to get from where they are and all the things that are broken and are heartbreaking about situations they may find themselves in, generational poverty, maybe generational fatherlessness, just all the things that are unbelievable challenges they're facing. Is they need a person, they need a path, and they need hope. And often those things all happen in together. Right, it starts often with a person, and a young person needs to have someone in their life that they know loves them, that cares for them, but then that person then has the opportunity to then to show them what a path looks like, and that can be a path towards hope. But often the people that, whether it's on social media or other influence in their life, it's not a path towards hope. It's not a path towards purpose. It's not a path towards God. It's a path towards a culture of violence, or towards a culture of trying to make money fast, or towards a culture saying, if I'm going to be a man or I'm going to be a woman, here's what I behave like. Here's the path I follow. And so I think what Midway is it's saying we want to be a person and a people that embody a path towards hope. And so I think that it all happens in the context of relationship, and the programming then comes along that as we're on that path together to say, well, here, you need to go see this counselor because you experienced trauma in your home. You saw your mother abused, and you need to get help for that, because most likely you're going to repeat that behavior if you don't receive healing. Right. You live in a high-risk environment, and so let us help you take these self-defense classes, and let us help you take some de-escalation tactics, or learn those, so that you can know how to approach living in that risk environment. And so, but all those things have to happen, like with a leader like Justin, and leaders coming alongside him saying, we love you, we care for you. As you mentioned in the last podcast, we're not going to speak to you from a megaphone telling you what you should do. We're going to speak to you through a telephone line of communication, telling you, because we love you, we want you to join us on this path towards hope.
You know, one of the things that I love, and Justin said it earlier, everyone has a story. We all love stories, right?
Of course we do.
But it is so great when that story becomes a testimony.
That's right.
Okay? That's the thing. You're helping young people understand that their story has to have a transition.
Right.
And that transition becomes from a story to a testimony. Right. And how awesome is a testimony? Okay, because ultimately every story needs to become a testimony. That's right. And it needs to be shared.
Well, Curtis, we talk about this all the time, and I'm going to throw this next question to you and make you wear a second hat today. I happen to have it written down on a card in here now. But really what we're talking about is, having this path, having that person and hope. And, we've talked about hope, but, several episodes ago, we had a good conversation about trauma and how trauma affects people. We had a doctor on who was talking about some of that thing, the different topics related to that. And so, what I'm hearing is, hope-driven change, but it's hope-driven change after trauma is still a path forward. That there is no hopelessness. Hopelessness only exists in a vacuum, absent the spirit of understanding that there is a path forward. So how do you see that in the trauma?
Well, what I see is that we have to push the idea that we all are overcomers. Hope is merely something that we all should have, in the sense of that, when we go into something, know that you don't have to stay in it. You hope to come out of it. When you hope to come out of it, you realize, and hopefully you understand that you didn't do it. Okay, it wasn't you that did it. And when you realize that story that was a story of hope became a testimony for you. It started off a story,
right?
But it transitioned into hope, because we all hope. We all have hope. We all want something better for ourselves. There's not a person in this world that does not want something better for themselves, whether it's love or whether it's more resources or whatever. But what drives the change for that? There has to be hope that drives it.
So as we continue this conversation, I do want to pause for just a minute and remind our viewers that we would love to read your email at echostoplive@gmail.com. That's echostoplive@gmail.com. Send us your email. If we don't answer during the show, certainly we'll answer after. We need your involvement. We want you involved. This is a great way to get involved, to send us your thoughts, send us your comments, ask us your questions. We'll give you an honest, real answer. The only guidelines we're bound by is reality, and we want to have that realistic conversation, which kind of takes me to sort of this next segue, if you will. I feel like sometimes people feel like they're torn between what they think society expects them to do and deep down inside what they know is really the right thing. Because, nobody wants to be in a horrible situation, but sometimes the factors of society, bad choices, influences from other people. We talked about social media. There's a lot of things that are factors in. So let's talk about the reality of Midway and kind of where it's at, where the project's going, what rollouts are occurring, and how you guys might, it's a lot of questions, how you guys might see that influence in this torn world and sort of bringing them back to the right side. I said to somebody the other day, they were talking about, having a bad day and how they felt so torn. And I'm like, this pulling from two sides. And I was like, can you imagine how much harder and more dramatic the tear would be if God wasn't on your side pulling with you? And that was really a thought, because they felt like they were doing it in isolation. And I'm like, no, you're fighting a lot of other things. There may be pride issues involved. There may be social issues involved. Sometimes just step back and let God have that rope for the tug of war and see how quick he pulls that thing across the line. And so how do you bring that tear back into your project? And where's the project at? Where are you going?
Yeah, so right now we're getting ready to hopefully roll out our programming in the first quarter of 2023. I just came on this week will make 2 months. So that was one of the things that stood out to me was Midway, being able to be the director of Midway. It really stood out to me because that shows me that that's busy work. That's good work to go out and, be a change agent and have the resources to do that. So right now we've met, we're meeting weekly, Micah and I, to put down some things and put together some things that would really make sense. Because a lot of times we do stuff and it doesn't make sense. It's like, who's your target audience? Why are you doing this? And so we want to start off, I know, for at least having, our youth center or our gymnasium operating like a youth center. We want to do that. We're going to start out with 1 day a week and see how that works. And if the need is there, we'll open up more days a week. And we'll have programming when they get here, tutoring, all type of different resources that they need, to help them get to where they need to be. But also we want to do a big event on maybe like a night or a week where a lot of youth get in trouble. We want to nail down that week or that month to say, okay, during this month or during this week, we see a lot of crime with the youth. So what alternative can we give them? And we've come up with some great ideas, and I'm so excited. I don't want to give away yet because we don't have it's not firm, but once we pinpoint that, we'll definitely get it out. And I'm so excited about even the first part of next year.
When I think about Midway, I think about being between two places. And when I think about that, I think about what you guys are doing here, and you're that light, that beacon that's pointing that person in the right direction, letting them know that you're halfway there, but keep coming. Keep coming, and when you get here, we'll show you the way.
So you brought up my question.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
No, I
didn't
didn't.
know you brought up my question.
I'm not clairvoyant, so no. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to answer that on this podcast, but I do think that you brought up a pretty good specific. I'm a specific. I like to get into the details sometimes. So let's use this opportunity. Where do they come to? Let's specifically tell people if somebody wants to get involved in Midway, they feel like there's a service that they might can benefit. Where do they need to come? How do they get involved? How can they attend? So whether it's a street address, a location, whatever you guys are comfortable with, we are believers that if we're telling the community about a service, we want to give the community the option to attend. So I don't know how you guys have marketed that, but I give you guys a few minutes. How do you attract, and where do you want people to get involved at?
So I'll answer the first part, then Jessica can talk about the social media part and some other logistics as far as that. So our nonprofit is very young, so we're just within our first year of operation. So our umbrella nonprofit is for Midtown, and then our youth program is Midway. And so that website will be launching any day now. We're working with our web designers, and so that'll be fully functional because we already have a part of our community engagement and loving and serving the community and having that conversation of knowing the people in the community, what the needs are, is called Cafe 150. So every Wednesday from 11 to 1 right here at Three Circle Church Midtown in our cafe, we invite people from the community to come in and receive a meal. And so it's a hearty meal. We often also are doing bag lunches and things to go for people, but we invite anyone to come. But it's a dignity sharing experience, and so we encourage them as they are receiving to give. And so they can do that through a small donation. They can do that through cleaning up after their meal. Or helping with serving the food, or often we have community service projects like we're putting together bags for the homeless or something like that they can help. And so they can go to the website and they can see all those things we're doing. They can sign up to volunteer, so there's a place for that on the website. There's ways if you're listening and you want to give to what Midway is doing or what For Midtown is doing, they can give there. So all the hub will be at formidtown.org, and then of course we have the social media page to go with that. Then we have things we're specifically going to do for people to be able to hear about it through what we're doing with Midway. So Jessica can talk more about that.
Yeah, and so with Midway, we really want to get at the grassroots level, and so we need all the teachers, all the principals, we need all of you on board because we want to come to you You don't have to come to us. We'll come to you, and you help us identify students who may need this service or who may need Midway. So we want to come and speak at your staff meetings. We want to come to your PTA meetings. We want to come and just have lunch with the students. So we want to. I had a concept that we're probably going to, if the schools will allow us to come in, bring a 360 photo booth during the lunch wave. Let kids come in, take pictures at the 360 photo booth, and we give them cards and stuff with our information on it. That way we can touch the student, but we also want to touch the teachers so they'll understand what's going on, and we also have to get to the parents. If we can't connect with the parents, then we could possibly lose out on a lot of the students who need the service. So that's one of the ways that we'll get all the specifics out is through directly to the student, directly to the teachers, the principals, and directly to the parents. That way we can impact them, and they'll see our faces and know who we are. But so we'll have social media up and running. In 4midtown.org will be up and running, so you'll know where we are, who we are. 150 South Sage Avenue. We're right here in Midtown. So if you have any questions, please come by. Look us up. We'll answer any questions you may have.
That's right.
And Curtis, you and I had this conversation just a few minutes ago, actually, before we started, and it's going to be the topic of a future podcast. I can guarantee you this. We're going to talk, people always ask Echo Stop and this four corners approach. And so we won't get into detail on it now, but I just want to mention it because of what Justin had just said. And that is, Echo Stop was created with prevention, deterrence, compliance, and detection. And that was like sort of this four corners approach, or it is a four corners approach, but it mirrors the four corner approach of society in general. And that's really what we're attacking the lack of. And that really starts with faith, family, education, and government or law enforcement and sort of the protection of society. And when any one of those corners is missing, it's not that it can't be overcome, but
it's not complete.
It is not complete. And you just said something there, because our teachers often are sort of the unsung heroes that are the conduit between reinforcing what either is not getting reinforced at home or is driving somebody to not go to a church. And whoa, talking on microphones, did you organize this today? This was a setup over here. But really that lack of sort of completeness is really what drives the deficiencies that you're overcoming. And so by bringing that corner, and actually, whether you realize it or not, it sounds like you do, you're actually bringing those four corners back together again, getting the parents involved, getting the teachers involved. No one of those corners can do it on their own.
But it's truly foundational. I mean, you have to really realize that in order to have something to really grow and get to a point, especially when we talk about youth, self-actualization is real. And that foundation has to have those things in place. They have to have bearing. And all those things that we talked about, our churches, our education, all those different things have to be there with the parent. We cannot forget that parents ultimately have the awesome responsibility of making sure our youth have what they need. But parents need to know that they also have us. They have the community, and that's what you guys are representing in Midway.
Yeah, most definitely. You hit it right there with the parents, and also sometimes it's grandparents who don't. They're I don't want to say stuck, but they're the ones raising teenagers, and they raised kids years ago, and it's not the same.
Right.
And so it's like, what do I do with this kid?
Right.
He's crazy, but they just don't understand the culture and how to adapt with them today. And so that's the reason for things like Midway and other organizations as well. We don't want to work in a silo. We want to work with all of the different organizations around Mobile to point grandparents, parents, and guardians into the right direction and the right resource, so that we can all take care of that student that they have. The old saying goes, it takes a village, right?
Absolutely.
It truly takes a village, and so we want to be a part of that village to bring some light and some hope to that grandparent, to that parent, to that guardian, to say, hey, bring them to us. We can help you out. We can help them out. It's a whole family approach. We want everybody. We want to get everybody on the right path.
It truly takes all of us. I'm going to try and do this without knocking my microphone over. You think that's possible?
I think you can do it, man. I think you can.
So I got a question for you, either one of you who wants to answer this. What can we do with the Echo Stop Live podcast to help you guys get the word out or to help encourage? Are there other people we can bring on the show? I mean, how do you get the word out? Just reiterate it. What do you see us? How can we help? We certainly want to be part of anything that brings the community closer to following through those four corners and getting faith and family and everybody back involved.
There's a couple ways to stick out to me, and I'm sure Justin has some as well. I think one way is just being able to help us get the word out as we start days of operation for Midway. Whenever we'll be open, where kids can stop in, where they can be empowered, engaged, to form relationships, have a place they can go, have essentially this be an embassy of hope. But yet we have to get out in the community as well. So they come here and they receive something. We want to continue to move the needle forward, like Justin said, in all the ways we're engaging them at the other places they're doing life as well. And so it's not just somewhere they come to get on this path, so to speak. It's something where we're doing life with them as well. And so engaging both those that would come and also helping us expand that path with partners that would listen to this podcast that are in education or are in other areas that would be that path of life their own, where we can have an open door to come in and not necessarily just put out a Midway agenda.
Right.
That's not the goal.
The
goal is to stand alongside young people as they're doing life, to empower them, towards that path of hope-driven change. And so I think being able to help us identify, how do we do that? How do we have partnership that crosses some of those unnecessary barriers to streamline connection for the next generation? And I think also I'd love to stay in conversation, because something you said, and it's a little bit off path from your question, but I think it's so important, is continue to wrap our mind around what does it mean to engage multi-generational change in the community. Like, not only how do we empower grandparents to see what parenting looks like in this next generation, but to empower young people as Midway gets up and running. Spencer Westlawn is right around the corner from here.
Right.
I'm longing for the day when we're raising up kids that go and tutor kids at Spencer Westlawn.
Right.
Yeah.
And close that pathway to jail, because kids aren't reading the level and doing math and stuff the level they need to be by third grade. That exponentially increases the chance of them being incarcerated.
Absolutely.
And so I think us being able to have a conversation where we're continually moving the needle forward of what it means to engage every generation of community, because that's what's going to take for change to take root. Now, we want to engage everybody. That'll never happen. But what does it look like for it to cross those barriers to where there is synergy, engaging one another, and engaging community change? That to me, I think, is the hub of the conversation.
And you said something powerful there. You said embassy of hope.
Yeah.
I want to be an ambassador. So, so with an embassy, you have ambassadors. I think we all are. I mean, I think we all hit the street and use the conversation, and gladly, if there are announcements that you need out or dates and times, whatever we can do to push out, just another place. But sadly, Curtis, it's no surprise to you today that we are almost out of time on this episode, because I know you like surprises.
Yeah, I love surprises.
I dropped the microphone on you a few times. This time,
You dropped the mic. That's what
I literally dropped the mic.
Put a little cool to it, okay?
But with the few minutes we have left, again, I want to thank our guests for coming on this podcast. Rather, us bringing the podcast to where they are, which is another first for us, but we really feel like it represents, if we're going to get out in the community, let's get out in the community. Again, echostoplive@gmail.com is a great way to send us your questions. If you've heard something, if you want to get involved, send it to that email address. Certainly, we'll be happy to forward to the appropriate person any involvement or suggestions you might have. Again, as we do with every show, 844-251-0644. It's 844-251-0644. That is our anonymous tip line. I cannot tell you about the hundreds of tips that we've received to date that have panned out just by us opening up a communications hotline for people in the community that are either scared or non-believer in law enforcement following through. Give us a shot, call that number, and let us show you how a mindset change, how community change, and how we can just get more involved. So we're trying to give you as many different opportunities as we can. It takes all of us, the community has to be involved. I thank you guys again. With the couple minutes we have left, any last parting words with Midway or anything in general? I'll let you.
I just want to thank you guys for what y'all are doing. This is phenomenal. Just to be able to pour back into this community. I think these tough conversations that we're having and that you guys are having on a weekly basis is huge. And so I look forward to continuing the relationship going and keeping that open line of communication.
Will you guys come back and give us a progress report down the road?
Yeah, we love it. Yeah.
All right. That would definitely be something we look forward to. Pastor, again, thank you so much. And I know you've been working with Curtis for a while, so I apologize up front for that. But
He's trying to recover from dropping the mic. Okay?
Hey, there's no recovery from that. Right. It's out there forever. But no, thank you guys so much for what you're doing. It is so reassuring to see it. And I'll just tell you from our line of work too, it's not impossible to get discouraged from time to time because you see things, but you guys rekindle that flame. You represent the people that rekindle the flame to keep everybody encouraged. It takes all of us, and that's the people that have to push these programs too. And I know you guys see and hear stories all the time, and a lot of those aren't always the greatest ones, but the fact that you plow through and stay faithful and true and do it, that's God's work. I know he's smiling when he sees this kind of stuff, and I just believe that, and I'm believing what our community is going to be smiling when they see where we're headed to. So thank you all again. Curtis, we'll have to do this again next Friday.
Absolutely.
At 8:30, because that's when we want all of our audience to tune in to the EchoStop Live podcast. And until then, stay safe, enjoy the new year, and happy holidays. Thank you for tuning in.